The sun blazed overhead as Elena Vega stood barefoot in the sand, her toes curled into its warmth, watching the beachfront villa through oversized sunglasses. Her white linen dress fluttered against her legs in the breeze coming off the Pacific. In her hand, she clutched her phone, knuckles white. She'd arrived in Puerto Escondido 3 hours ago. It had taken another hour to find the right beach, another still to locate the secluded villa among the palms. Now, as afternoon slid toward evening, she watched the silhouettes moving behind gauzy curtains. A man and a woman, her husband and his mistress. 15 years of marriage crystallized into this moment, watching shadows dance through sheer fabric. Elena's breathing steadied. The initial shock had faded during the flight from Chicago, replaced by a cold, clear purpose. She lifted her phone, swiped past the airline confirmation, past screenshots of credit card statements, hotel reservations, text messages, all evidence that had led her here. She opened the camera app and zoomed in on the villa's expansive deck. Just as the sliding door opened, click, there he was, Marcus, her husband, emerging with 2 cocktails, wearing board shorts she'd never seen. His physique looked different, leaner, tanner than she remembered. Click, and there she was. The mistress, young, lithe, her dark hair tumbling over bronze shoulders. A woman Elena had never met but whose name, Vanessa, she'd become intimately familiar with over the past 3 months of piecing together her husband's betrayal. Click, click, click. Elena lowered the phone and slipped it into her bag. She removed her sunglasses, placed them carefully atop her head, and began walking toward the villa. Sand crunched beneath her feet, turning from soft to coarse as she approached the wooden stairs leading up to the deck. Her heart hammered in her chest, but her face remained expressionless. She didn't need to rehearse what she'd say. She'd practiced this conversation 1,000 times in her mind during sleepless nights. Elena was 15 steps away when Marcus spotted her. His face transformed. Confusion, recognition, shock, fear, all in the span of 2 seconds. The glasses he held tilted, spilling their contents. The woman beside him turned, following his gaze, her expression uncomprehending. "Elena?" Marcus's voice cracked. Elena kept walking, her pace steady. "Hello, darling," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the shrinking distance. Surprise! 3 months earlier, Elena had been a different person entirely. Content, or at least comfortable in her routine. She ran a successful interior design firm in Chicago, specialized in commercial spaces. Marcus headed the legal department for a mid-sized tech company. They lived in a renovated brownstone in Lincoln Park, hosted dinner parties for colleagues, spent weekends at farmers markets and trendy restaurants. Childless by circumstance rather than choice. Years of trying, a miscarriage, eventually acceptance. The first hint came innocuously enough, a credit card charge at a jewelry store Elena didn't recognize 2 days before her birthday. She'd assumed it was a gift for her and thought nothing more of it. Until her birthday came and went with only a hastily purchased scarf and dinner reservation Marcus canceled at the last. "Minute due to work emergency. You seem distracted lately," she'd said over breakfast one Sunday morning in May, watching him over the rim of her coffee cup. Marcus looked up from his phone, smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Just work stress. This merger is killing me." Elena nodded, accepting the explanation she'd heard variations of for weeks. She'd been busy herself, redesigning a boutique hotel downtown. Their paths had been crossing less and less, separate work dinners, weekend commitments pulling them in different directions. "Maybe we should plan a trip," she suggested. "Once your merger closes and my hotel project wraps. Somewhere warm, just the 2 of us." "That sounds perfect," Marcus said, his attention already drifting back to his phone. "Let's talk about it later." Later never came. 2 weeks after that conversation, Elena was searching their shared cloud storage for old tax documents when she found a folder she didn't recognize. Inside were confirmation emails for flight reservations, Chicago to Puerto Escondido, Mexico. Just one passenger, Marcus Vega. I didn't know you were going to Mexico, she said that evening, keeping her voice casual as they prepared dinner. Marcus froze momentarily, knife poised over an onion. It's a last-minute thing. Legal conference. Should have mentioned it. In Puerto Escondido? Elena raised an eyebrow. Seems like an unusual place for a conference. The firm that's hosting specializes in international business law. They like to incentivize attendance. He resumed chopping, a bit too forcefully. It's mostly work, but the location doesn't hurt. Elena nodded, filing away the lie. There was no conference, she'd checked. She said nothing more about it that night, but after Marcus fell asleep, she took his phone to the bathroom. The passcode was still the same one he'd used for years, their wedding anniversary. Inside, she found text messages to someone saved simply as V. Arrangements for a beach villa. Excitement about 5 uninterrupted days together. That night, Elena didn't cry. Instead, she began to plan. The following week, she contacted her oldest friend, Camila Jimenez, who had moved back to Mexico City after college. They'd stayed in touch over the years, visiting each other when they could. I need your help with something, Elena said after they'd caught up. And I need you to not ask too many questions right now. That sounds ominous, Camila responded, concern evident in her voice. I need information about rental villas in Puerto Escondido, specifically ones that might be rented by tourists for a week in July. A pause. Elena, what's going on? I think Marcus is having an affair, Elena said flatly. He's planning a trip there next month, and he's not going alone. And it's not a business trip. Camilla's soft exhale carried through the phone. I'm so sorry, Elena. I need to know for sure, Elena continued. I need to see it with my own eyes. What exactly are you planning? I don't know yet, but I'm going to follow him there. In the weeks that followed, Elena became someone she barely recognized, a detective investigating her own marriage. She documented evidence methodically, unusual credit card charges, unexplained absences, text messages she glimpsed on his phone. She discovered a second phone hidden in his golf bag, filled with conversations and photos that left no doubt about the affair. The woman was Vanessa Cole, a 29-year-old marketing executive at a firm Marcus's company had worked with. The affair had been going on for at least 7 months, possibly longer. Elena learned that Marcus had visited Vanessa in Los Angeles, where she was based, multiple times under the guise of business trips. She discovered he'd taken Vanessa to New York for her birthday weekend, the same weekend he'd told Elena he was attending a legal conference. With each discovery, Elena expected to feel devastation. Instead, she felt a curious detachment, as though she were reading about strangers. The pain was there, buried deep, but above it was something else, a cold, clear determination. By July, she had her own ticket to Puerto Escondido, booked for the day after Marcus's arrival. She had the name and location of the villa, secured through Camilla's local connections. She had a plan for what would happen next. What she didn't have anymore was tears. On her last night in Chicago, before flying to Mexico, Elena sat alone on their rooftop deck, watching the city lights. Their home, her home, felt like a museum of falseness now. Every photo on the wall, every piece of furniture they'd chosen together, the bed they'd shared for 15 years, all of it contaminated by deception. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, who was supposedly at a work dinner, going to be late. Don't wait up, Elena didn't reply. Instead, she opened her laptop and logged into their investment account. Since discovering the affair, she'd been quietly preparing, consulting with a divorce attorney, documenting their assets, learning her rights. What Marcus didn't know, what would soon become abundantly clear, was that Elena hadn't just been the supportive wife who built her business while he climbed the corporate ladder. She'd been the primary breadwinner for most of their marriage. Her design firm had flourished over the past decade while his career had plateaued. The brownstone they lived in had been purchased primarily with her money. The lifestyle he'd grown accustomed to, the one that apparently helped him attract a younger woman, was largely funded by Elena's success. As she reviewed their financial statements, Elena felt a strange sense of calm. She wasn't just gathering evidence of infidelity, she was reclaiming her narrative. For too long, she realized, she'd diminished her own achievements to protect Marcus's ego, downplaying her success in social settings, letting him take credit for their financial stability. That night, she slept in the guest room, surrounded by packed bags. In the morning, she left a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to visit Camilla for a few days. Talk when I get back. By the time Marcus would read it, she'd be halfway to Mexico, following the trail of his betrayal. Puerto Escondido was exactly as Camilla had described, a once sleepy surf town that had transformed into a destination for tourists seeking authenticity just beyond the reach of the major resort cities. The air was thick with humidity as Elena emerged from the small airport terminal, her single suitcase rolling behind her. Camilla was waiting, leaning against a rental car, her dark hair pulled back in a loose bun. She straightened when she spotted Elena, arms opening for an embrace. "You look terrible," Camilla said bluntly, holding Elena at arm's length to examine her. "Thank you for that assessment," Elena replied with a dry smile. "It's been a rough few months. Are you sure about this?" Camilla asked as they drove toward the small hotel where Elena would stay, deliberately chosen to be on the opposite side of town from Marcus's villa. "Following him here, it seems pathetic?" "Desperate," Elena supplied. "I was going to say dangerous, for your heart." Elena gazed out the window at the passing landscape. Lush greenery interspersed with colorful buildings, the ocean occasionally visible between gaps. "My heart's already been through the dangerous part. Now I just need to see it with my own eyes. And then what?" Elena turned to her friend. "Then I make sure he loses a hell of a lot more than I do." The next morning, Elena rose early. She dressed carefully in the white linen dress she'd brought specifically for this moment, applied minimal makeup, and pulled her dark hair into a sleek ponytail. She looked polished, powerful, not like someone whose world was imploding. Camilla drove her to the beach where the villa was located, agreeing to wait at a nearby cafe. "Call me if you need anything," she said, squeezing Elena's hand. "I mean anything." Elena nodded, then made her way down to the beach, feeling the shift from pavement to sand beneath her sandals. She removed them once she reached the shore, carrying them in one hand as she walked along the water's edge, scanning the beachfront properties until she spotted the villa from the photos she'd seen. And now here she was, climbing those wooden steps, watching her husband's face drain of color as she approached. Behind him, the woman, Vanessa, looked between them with dawning comprehension. "Elena," Marcus repeated, as if saying her name might somehow make this situation less real. "What are you doing here?" Elena reached the top of the stairs, standing on the deck now, close enough to see the fine sheen of sweat breaking out on her husband's forehead. "I think that's my line, don't you?" she said calmly. She turned to Vanessa, who had wrapped a sarong around her bikini-clad body. "You must be Vanessa. I've heard absolutely nothing about you." Marcus stepped forward, placing himself between the two women. "Elena, let's talk privately. Why?" Elena asked, her voice steady. "Are there secrets between you and Vanessa too? Or am I the only one you lie to?" Vanessa's face flushed. "I should go inside," she murmured, turning toward the villa. "Please don't leave on my account," Elena said. "I think you should hear this too. After all, you've invested quite a bit of time in my husband." Marcus's expression hardened. "This isn't the place. 7 months, is it?" Elena continued, ignoring him. "Or is it longer? I'm not sure when exactly it started. The New York trip was January, but there were unexplained late nights before that." Vanessa stared at Marcus. "You said you were separated," she said quietly. "You said you were living apart and working through the divorce details." A bitter laugh escaped Elena. "Did he? How convenient." She turned to Marcus. "We sleep in the same bed. We had dinner together 3 nights ago. I helped your mother pick out a retirement community last month. Which part of that sounds like separation to you?" Marcus's jaw worked as he struggled for words. "It's complicated," he finally managed. "It's really not," Elena replied. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone, What's complicated is explaining these. She pulled up photos, screenshots of text messages, hotel receipts, the jewelry purchase that had never been for her. You went through my phone? Marcus's voice rose with indignation. You invaded my privacy? Elena's calm finally cracked. Your privacy? She spat. You forfeited any right to privacy when you started fucking someone else behind my back. Vanessa flinched at the words, backing away toward the villa door. Don't go, Vanessa, Elena called. Don't you want to know what else he's been lying about? She returned her attention to Marcus. Should I tell her about the money, Marcus? About how you've been using my success to fund this little fantasy of yours? Marcus's face darkened. That's not fair. I contribute 40%, Elena cut in. That's your contribution to our household. I pay 60% of everything. The mortgage, the vacations, the lifestyle that apparently makes you attractive to women 10 years younger. Vanessa looked stricken. Marcus, what is she talking about? Elena smiled thinly. He didn't mention that part, did he? That his impressive lifestyle is largely subsidized by his wife's design firm? That the watch he wears, the one you probably thought signaled his success, was a gift from me for our 10th anniversary? Marcus stepped toward her, voice lowered to a threatening whisper. Stop it, Elena, now! Or what? Elena challenged, not backing down. What will you do, Marcus? What could you possibly do to me that's worse than what you've already done? For a moment, they stood frozen in tableau, husband and wife locked in silent combat, the mistress watching from the periphery. The sounds of the ocean filled the silence, waves crashing, distant laughter from beachgoers, a boat motor somewhere offshore. Finally, Marcus's shoulders sagged. This isn't how I wanted you to find out, he said quietly. Find out what? Elena asked. That you're a liar? A cheater? That the last 15 years of my life have been wasted on someone who could throw it all away for… She gestured vaguely at Vanessa, who winced. That I'm not happy, Marcus said firmly. That I haven't been happy for a long time. Elena felt as though she'd been slapped. Of all the things she'd prepared herself to hear, this simple statement hit hardest. You never said anything, she whispered. Would you have listened? Marcus challenged. You're always so busy with your clients, your firm. When was the last time you asked me about my day and actually cared about the answer? Don't you dare, Elena hissed. Don't you dare try to make this my fault. If you were unhappy, you could have talked to me. You could have suggested counseling. You could have asked for a divorce. Instead, you lied. For months. You made a fool of me. Vanessa had retreated to the doorway of the villa, watching them with wide eyes. I need to pack my things, she said quietly, slipping inside. Neither Elena nor Marcus acknowledged her departure. I didn't want to hurt you, Marcus said. Elena laughed, a hollow sound. Then you failed spectacularly. She looked past him at the ocean, the beauty of the scene in stark contrast to the ugliness of the moment. 15 years, Marcus. 15 years of building a life together, and you threw it away without even giving us a chance to fix it. For the first time, something like genuine regret flickered across Marcus's face. I'm sorry, he said. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did, Elena replied. And now we're here. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, holding it out to him. These are the names of 3 divorce attorneys. I've already retained mine. I'll be staying with Camilla for the next few days, and with my sister when I return to Chicago. I expect you to be out of the house by then. Marcus stared at the envelope but didn't take it. You can't just decide all of this unilaterally. Watch me. Elena placed the envelope on the small table between them. I've already transferred half of our savings to a separate account. Exactly half, not a penny more. The joint credit cards are frozen. The locks will be changed next week. Her voice was mechanical, reciting the steps she'd planned meticulously. I've documented everything, Marcus. Every lie, every unauthorized expense, every aspect of this affair. If you want to fight me on the divorce, I'm prepared for that. But I don't think you'll want these details becoming public record. You're threatening me? Marcus asked incredulously. I'm informing you of reality, Elena corrected. Your choices have consequences. This is what they look like. From inside the villa came the sound of drawers opening and closing, zippers on suitcases. Vanessa was packing quickly. What about us talking? Working through this? Marcus asked, his tone shifting to something placating. You just showed up and made all these decisions without consulting you? Elena finished for him. The way you consulted me before starting an affair? Before booking this romantic getaway? She shook her head. We're past the point of discussion, Marcus. You didn't want a conversation when it could have mattered. You don't get one now. As she turned to leave, Marcus reached for her arm. Elena, please! She jerked away from his touch. Don't. The single word carried the weight of 15 years crumbling to dust. Just don't. Elena descended the wooden steps back to the beach, her legs trembling but her back straight. She walked along the shoreline, away from the villa, until she reached a small cove sheltered by rocks. Only then did she allow herself to sink to the sand, burying her face in her hands as the first tears finally came. They weren't tears of shock or fresh pain. She'd moved beyond those emotions in the weeks of investigation and planning. These were deeper tears, mourning not just the end of her marriage but the death of a future she'd believed in. The children they might have had, the retirement they'd planned, the growing old together that would never happen now. She didn't know how long she sat there, letting the waves nearly reach her feet before retreating. Eventually, she became aware of someone sitting beside her. Camilla, offering silent companionship. I followed you from a distance, Camilla explained. Wanted to make sure you were okay. Elena wiped her eyes. I don't know what okay means anymore. It means surviving today, Camilla said simply. And then tomorrow, and the day after that, until surviving starts to feel like living again. Elena nodded, looking out at the horizon where the ocean met the sky in a seamless line. I thought I'd feel more satisfied, seeing his face when I showed up, laying out the divorce terms. She picked up a handful of sand, letting it sift through her fingers. But I just feel empty. Revenge is like that, Camilla observed. Never quite as fulfilling as you hope. It wasn't about revenge, Elena said, though she wasn't entirely convinced of that herself. It was about taking back control. Did you? Elena considered the question. I don't know. But I couldn't just sit at home, waiting for him to come back and lie to my face again. They sat in silence for a while longer before Camilla spoke again. What will you do now? Legally? Follow through with the divorce. Practically? Move forward with my business. Maybe expand to international clients like I've been considering. Personally? Elena shook her head. I have no idea. One step at a time, Camilla advised. Starting with getting off this beach and having a very strong drink. Despite everything, Elena smiled faintly. She allowed Camilla to help her up, brushing sand from her white dress that now bore the marks of her breakdown. As they walked back toward the road, Elena spotted two figures further down the beach, Marcus and Vanessa carrying suitcases toward a waiting taxi. They looked smaller somehow, diminished in the vast landscape. Do you want to avoid them? Camilla asked, noticing her gaze. Elena shook her head. No, let them see me walking away. She straightened her shoulders and continued forward, not looking back again. That evening, in Camilla's small rental apartment overlooking the town, Elena sat on the balcony with a glass of tequila, watching the sun sink into the Pacific in a blaze of orange and pink. I keep thinking about something, she said as Camilla joined her. When I was confronting them, Marcus tried to blame me. Said I was too focused on my work that I didn't listen to him. She took a sip of her drink. The thing is, there might be some truth to that. Don't you dare take responsibility for his choices, Camilla warned. I'm not, Elena clarified. The affair, the lies, those are entirely on him. But the distance between us? That didn't happen overnight. And I wasn't completely innocent in that part. What do you mean? Elena sighed. I think I've been hiding in my work for years. After the miscarriage especially, it was easier to pour everything into my firm than to deal with the grief. the disappointment. She swirled the amber liquid in her glass. We never really talked about it, how it affected us, how it changed our plans for the future. We just moved on, or pretended to. That still doesn't justify what he did, Camilla insisted. No, Elena agreed. Nothing justifies that. But I'm trying to understand how we got here. Not to excuse him, but to make sure I don't repeat the same patterns. Camila reached over to squeeze her hand. That's probably the healthiest thing you could be doing right now. Or I'm overthinking to avoid feeling the pain, Elena said with a mirthless laugh. Also possible. Camilla raised her glass. To feeling whatever comes, then. Elena clinked her glass against her friend's. To whatever comes next. 3 days later, Elena returned to Chicago. As arranged, Marcus had moved out, leaving behind a letter she promptly burned without reading. She walked through their home, her home now, seeing it with new eyes. So many spaces designed to impress others rather than comfort themselves. So many compromises in taste and style she'd made to accommodate Marcus's preferences. Over the next weeks, as the divorce proceedings began, Elena initiated another kind of dismantling and rebuilding. She repainted walls, rearranged furniture, donated items that carried too many memories. She expanded her firm, hiring 2 new designers and taking on the international clients she'd been considering. 6 months later, Elena stood in the newly renovated rooftop deck of her home, hosting a small gathering for her business associates and close friends. The space, once dominated by Marcus's preferred minimalist aesthetic, now reflected Elena's own taste: warm woods, textured fabrics, plants spilling from handcrafted pottery. Camilla, visiting from Mexico City, joined her at the railing overlooking the Chicago skyline. "You seem different," she observed. Elena considered this. "I am different," she acknowledged. "Stronger in some ways, more cautious in others. Happier. Getting there," Elena said honestly. "Some days are still hard. But I'm building something new, not just with the house or the business, but with myself. Have you heard from him?" Elena shook her head. "Not directly. The lawyers handle everything. I heard through mutual friends that he and Vanessa broke up." She shrugged. "Not my circus, not my monkeys anymore." As guests mingled behind them, Elena gazed out at the city lights. She thought about the beach in Puerto Escondido, the moment everything had shattered. She thought about the smooth sand there, created from countless broken fragments polished over time by the persistent ocean. That's what healing felt like, she realized. Not a restoration to what was before, but a transformation into something different, something that bore the marks of what had happened but wasn't defined by them. "To glass sand," she murmured. Raising her glass to the horizon, Camilla looked puzzled. "What's that?" "Something broken that becomes beautiful again," Elena explained. "Just in a different form." As they turned to rejoin the gathering, Elena felt a sense of peace settle over her. The future stretched before her, unwritten. For the first time in many months, she looked forward to discovering what came next.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.